All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about reports that the Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford fight will be announced soon, and it will be in October. I have several different news outlets reporting the fight as an October fight, and also I've gotten word from sources that they said that they believe that that fight is almost done. Let's talk about that and the continued predictions coming through for Terence Crawford the closer we get to the fight. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Let's talk about the welterweight division, Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford. You have different news outlets reporting that the fight, or referring to the fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford as an October matchup. Following what Mike Coppinger had said about the fight being announced soon for October 29th. Before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. Please accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, if you are a longtime supporter and subscriber to the channel, thank you guys so much for your support. Hit that like button, hit that share button. It really does help the channel grow and continue to bring more people into our boxing forum and the conversations that we have every day, pretty much every day, 7 days a week, in live stream and in video format. All right, so here we go, man. More people are talking about the fight is getting close to being done, or that the fight is done and they're just waiting to announce it. Boxing News 24 had an article up today in which they referred to what Danny Garcia had to say, and they talked specifically about the October fight. You had Mike Coppinger who came out and said the same thing. I have sources that are somewhat close to the camp and said that they believe that the fight is going to be in October as well, and still believe that the fight is going to get done, and that it's going to be announced when sometime around the first week of July. After, along with some of the other fights that they have laid out, that the PBC has laid out, you started to see fights, several fights announced for the PBC finalized, like Luis Ortiz versus Andy Ruiz. You have the Danny Garcia Jose Benavidez Jr. fight coming up, and you're going to get several more announcements for the second half of the year coming up, and that's probably what they're going to do. And during the middle of that time, they're going to be able to announce that Errol Spence Terence Crawford fight. Now, I myself do not know whether that is true or not. I'm sharing that message. My thing is, I'm going to kind of go with what Roy Jones Jr. said and say, hey man, I'll believe it when I see it, because not saying that I don't believe that it will take place. I do believe that the fight is going to take place. I think more than likely Terence Crawford is just really kind of hardballing the negotiations, but at the same time giving a sense to people that he is going to accept that fight. There have been a lot of different issues around it, around, like, for example, the guarantee, the percentage split, where the fight's going to be, whether there is or there isn't a rematch clause. All of that stuff, has to be negotiated and worked out. But I really get a sense that, with all of the talk about the fight and the fact that the fight is so big and taking up so much air in the boxing world right now, that those guys are going to turn around and make that money and capitalize on the fight that is clearly the biggest fight in boxing. If you compare the way that people are talking about this fight over the top, versus Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin, or Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua, or any other fight in boxing, it really is like night and day. And I do think that this is a fight. Because of that, this fight should get over the line. However, like Roy Jones Jr. said, he said, I believe it when I see it. That this was the same way with the Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight. when those guys were trying to fight, the conversation just kept going and going and going and going. And, at the end of the day, it took 5 years for that fight, 5 years for that fight to take place. I don't think we're in the same realm amount of time, as far as like this amount of pressure and heat around a fight being made. I don't think we're that far down the road on it, right? But, we're definitely far down the road on it. And, and hopefully the fight will get made. Like I said, these are reports coming out of different media, the way that they're referring to the fight being done in October, following what Mike Coppinger's never retracted what he said about the fight, the contracts not having been signed, but those guys looking for an October 29th date in Las Vegas. But again, nothing is done for sure. That's just, what is out there and the latest update that is out there. Now, as far as what, other people talking about the fight, man, there's most definitely a lot of professional fighters that are leaning towards Terence Crawford when they make these predictions. Now, everybody says, oh, it's a 50-50, it's a 50-50 fight. It's a really close fight. But I like Terence Crawford's style over Errol Spence Jr. You have the latest people in this are Gennady Golovkin and his trainer, Banks, Jonathan Banks. I do believe Jonathan Banks is his trainer. Jonathan Banks' statement was really interesting. He said, look, they're both really good fighters. It could go either way, but Terence Crawford is the better finisher. So, when all things are equal, who do you go with? You go with the better finisher. I thought that was kind of funny because you got to get into somebody in some trouble to finish him. You know what I mean? Like if Terence Crawford gets him hurt, he'll finish him. I've never seen Errol Spence Jr. get somebody hurt and not finish them either. I just think that the thing with Errol Spence Jr. is more of a slow bake. But Danny Garcia gave his prediction for the fight. He stayed and said, look, it really is going to depend on who shows up better that day. His take on it was that he believed that Errol Spence Jr. was the bigger fighter, the stronger welterweight, and Terence Crawford was the more talented fighter who threw shorter punches. Now, I thought that was really interesting, man. And now, not to disagree with him on that, because, he's been in the ring with Errol. He's been in the ring with Terence Crawford. But I never noticed. I would have thought that Errol was the guy that threw the shorter punches, especially because he's on it in the inside. Now, maybe Terence has more power and able to hurt you and really jar you with short punches. That I saw when he fought Kell Brook and caught him with a very, very nice short right hook and wobbled him, right? And I've seen Terence Crawford wobble people with really short shots before, so maybe that's what he means. That's what he means by it. But, all in all, man, it just seems like more and more, the closer we get to the fight, the more people that are all saying that it's a very close fight hedge towards Terence. And I think that's going to be a lot of fuel to Errol going into the fight, and Errol wanting to make sure that he gets this fight done. Because, in my take, from what I can see, this fight wouldn't get done without Errol Spence. And Errol Spence doing what he said he was going to do, which was bend. He said he wouldn't break, but bend, not break, in making of the fight. But let's just hope this thing gets done quick, and that these people referring to the fight as an October fight, and Mike Coppinger not retracting what he said. And the people that I talked to and saying that they believe that it will get done around that time, let's just hope that's right. Again, take it with a grain of salt. We'll believe it when we see it. Is definitely a good way to go about it with these type of fights, because I still maintain that the PBC may not really want to make this fight, especially because of the cost factors and the risks associated with it. But that's another conversation. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.